Hello, blog followers.
Hello, blog followers. Followers? I might have had a wee bit enough of this.
Frankie and I are drinking.
We thought to hell with it, we're going to do something special today, and it'll be us conversing about rubbish while drinking wine, and I believe scotch is on order at Sam's house. Yes!
Friday, and Friday only happens once a week. So, we just decided we were going to hang out and be ridiculous, because we do that best, and it's always really entertaining. So, you're welcome.
So this is actually our first hangout as well. I think we need to point that one out.
Yeah, and we did it just the way we wanted to, with alcohol in hand. Here!
We always said we would. Cheers!
So we're trying to be serious. Let's be serious.
That's right.
So, Frankie and I actually met writing fan fiction. I was writing the fan fiction that would actually lead to the novel that I'm currently writing. And she was the first person I ever saw an archive of her own to post artwork. And I got really excited. It was really good. And I was like, oh my god, you can post artwork? How do you do that?
I remember that conversation.
She told me how, and I was like, oh, no, I want artwork with my story. And I started looking around for artists, and I'm like, I'll just get her to do it. And so I sent her a message. And she was actually really excited about it. I was like, I'll pay you, I'll do whatever I want, or whatever you want, and I'll make you a co-writer, and it was really cool. And so we just kind of started talking, and then my co-writer disappeared, and so then I was like super depressed. And it was Frankie that convinced me to start writing again, because I honestly couldn't write anything for like 2 months. And we've been talking ever since. And then one drunken night, she was like, I would love to write something with you. And I was like, well, we'll talk about this tomorrow when you're not quite so wasted. And we'll revisit the topic. And we did, and we worked on something, and now here we are.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, at that night that you contacted me, I had went on to my friends, I'm like, oh my god, there's this girl in America who wants my drawings! And she's like, woo! And it was just a pure squee fest. And yeah, I mean, that must be almost a year now. Must be.
It's about a year, yeah.
Yeah, well, it'll be about a year since we've started talking, and we've become really good friends to the point that Sam saw my story, and she's the first ever person in the entire world to see it. And there you go. That's trust for you. Built over a year.
So we started writing a fan fiction together that's like uber depressing, and it starts off sad and gets even sadder, and by the end of it, there's like suicide and broken childhoods.
And you know, the best of it is it's not finished yet, and I really, really, really want to get back to it and finish it, because it's really good, actually. I quite like it.
Frankie and I had always wanted to write a novel, and never have, really. We haven't finished one nor published it, so we're talking about when we finally finished our fan fiction, then we'd sit down and write a novel, and we'd cheer each other on and make sure that it actually happened. And her idea was to do NaNoWriMo, and then we got the idea to do all this shit, and now here we are.
I know. How did this start, actually? Who came up? We came up with the vlog, the blogging site. Who came up with that? How did that happen?
I think I did. I was
What
just
were we
like,
talking about?
I don't know. I was also the first one to do a video, because you would never even let me hear your voice. And now look at us.
I know. Look at me now. I'm like, yo, can't I get enough?
See, I told you, once you start doing the videos, it starts to get addicting. And then pretty soon, Frankie's like, let's put both of us on the same video together. I'll go get the software. You sit there and drink. And I'm like, okay. So how did I get into writing? So I've been into reading for a very, very long time. And the first things I ever had to write were for school, as for most of us. But the difference was every time the assignment would give us a prompt, I actually got really into it, and it kind of stemmed from there. And I used to make up stories in my brain to occupy me when I was bored. And the earliest memory I have of that is sitting in church. Because I had no idea what was going on, and it was like, all right, sit, kneel, stand, sit, kneel, stand. There was like music I couldn't understand, and in my head I was just like, I'm gonna think up stories, and I passed the time. So, because sometimes you end up places and you don't have something to do. Like, I didn't bring a book, I didn't have a video game, and so all it was me and either boring magazines or my own imagination, and I would come up with stories. And I don't remember how I started writing them down, but then the rest from there is basically history. How about you?
Oh gosh, me. Much the same thing. Came from boredom, I suppose. Most of my work when I was at university and college. All my notes are just either drawings or little ideas for stories. I mean, I started a long time ago, and any time I was ever bored, I just scribbled stuff down. Whether it was good or bad didn't matter, as long as I was writing something down, you know. And a few years ago, I got into the Stargate franchise. I say a few years ago, it was like years ago, and started writing fan fiction. And people seemed to like what I was writing, so I just carried on from there. And a few years ago, I did a couple of drawings and put them up onto Twitter. And some of my followers were like, oh my God, is there a story behind these drawings? And I'm like, no, not really. You should have a drawing, you should have a story behind your drawings. And I'm like, not really. So I went with that. I was like, okay, well, I'll write a story for the drawings. And it went on for there. And I ended up with a whole squad of drawings for The Scientist's Daughter, which we've talked about before. And it became a wee online story. And then it was thrown up as an ebook. And yeah, it's went on for there. And then I met you, and it's like, whoa, we're writing a book! No!
I'm writing a book!
Get on it, man!
Fucking good!
And that's the way to do it. I mean, I've got a wild imagination. I've always had a really wild imagination. And I remember when I was at school, one of my teachers was quite concerned about the subject matter of some of my drawings and things like that. And I'm like, it's just a horror drawing. What's your problem? And he's like, oh, is there something wrong with your mind? I think maybe something wrong with your mind. And I'm like, back off. Because I mean, I've always went down the kind of psychological path and the dark humour and things like that. They just didn't get it. But yeah, that's where that came from.
All right, so fan fiction was kind of where my career took off because I started writing stories to fill in the gaps of the plotline of Naruto, which is my favorite show ever, and Frankie can attest to that. I made her watch it. She loved it.
It is awesome!
Well, yeah.
It's
so
amazing.
I don't remember why. I started reading it, and because the anime was run out. It was still going, but it was like stopped, and I needed more. So I started reading it, and some of the stories were just really freaking awful. So I started writing my own. And then when you write your own and you post it to a fan fiction site, you get this statistics page, and so you could go and see how many people looked at your stories, commented on your stories, and it got to be really addicting. And I'd sit there and just refresh the page over and over and over again. And so, every now and then someone would be like, I really like this. And so it became like an addiction that I needed to feed. I needed to write another story to keep my fans happy. And it just got a little out of control. And now here we are 600,000 words later, and I'm still writing.
Not bad. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I think, like, writing fan fiction and that is, it's a great thing because you get instant feedback, don't you? You get told more or less right away whether your story's crap or not.
Right.
And I found that anytime there's a story ended that I don't like the ending of, I rewrite it. And I'll either rewrite it in a drawing or obviously a fiction or an animation, and I've done that for years because there's many of my favourite TV programmes and films have finished in a way that I didn't like. So that's where a lot of my creativity went into the last few years, was rewriting the ends of sci-fi shows and dramas and things like that. But no, you get instant feedback whether or not what you're doing is in any way good. And I know that some people look at fan fiction and things like that and say, oh God, it's just fan fiction, why are you writing that? You'll never get anywhere, blah, 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 blah. But it's actually a really good learning tool because you've got people there saying, you could have did it this way or that way, or your grammar's not great, or blah, 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 whatever. And then you fix it and you learn from it. So it's quite a good learning curve, writing fan fiction.
The other thing I like about fan fiction is that because it's such an informal platform that you get to see a lot of writing styles because people will do like a bunch of little short things. Yeah. And so like you'll see the people that'll write like long, flowy stories, kind of like what I'm trying to do. Mm-hmm. And then you'll see people like one of the writers I follow does a bunch of where it's more like a series of tiny little punctuated scenes where the scene is only like a single paragraph, but it's a very pointed, like very powerful scene, and it's just a string of those, and it still deeply affects you in certain ways. You get to see a bunch of people trying experimental approaches with their writing that you could never get away with if you were trying to publish, and it's kind of cool to see.
Well, that's it. the other side of the fan fiction thing is the reading of the fan fiction, because you do get to see so many varied ways of writing, and reading through things, you can instantly see whether or not you're going down the right way. If you see people feed back into, you know, others that this didn't work or that didn't work, then you know yourself what worked and didn't work, and you can, you know, work that into your own writing.
So NaNoWriMo was a lot of fun.
Oh, God.
Pain in the ass, and oh my gosh, am I going to do it differently next year? Because normally when I write, I edit as I go, and for Nano, I was so obsessed with getting that big old word count that I didn't, and I'm really regretting it now. Yeah. Editing is killing me.
Oh, your editing must be brutal. I mean, let's face it. How many words? 190,000?
I started with 192,500, right around there.
And you're editing it down. I mean, that's brutal. I had to look over mine today, as you know, I'm cutting a character and changing a couple of things. So I had to go back, because you said, do it, don't wait. So I had went back in mine today, and I'm looking at it going, oh my God, this is so messy. It needs squared up, and I just don't have the time to do it now. So I'm kind of dreading it.
Yeah, mine's at about 180,007 now.
Hey, that's good going.
Yeah, really I've cut almost 12,000 words. More that's for me. I usually add it in.
I don't actually know how many words I'm sitting on the now. But when I read through what I'd written today, because I was trying to catch where Ben came into the story and things like that, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. You know, there's messy parts where I just wrote down ideas, but it's not quite as awful as I actually originally thought it was when I was reading over it.
Frankie and I, in the cut scene here, decided that we were going to talk about our stories and how we got to it. So my story, as I told you, was based on a fan fiction, and the fan fiction came about as a reason. So Kishimoto, the creator of Naruto, his female characters pretty much suck. So the whole purpose of my fan fiction was to bring a couple of the undeveloped female characters to the center stage and make them awesome. So I came up with this organization of basically women assassins that was going to be the prototype for the later assassins of Naruto, and they're called Anbu. So it was a co-write fan fiction with a friend of mine who has been missing now for, I want to say it's about 6 months. Nope, more than 6 months. I haven't seen her. And I was really bummed out because now I can't go anywhere with my story. And when Nano came around, I had a story in mind that I, at the last second, decided I hated. And I really wanted to write this. And my friend Kevin talked me into writing this. So what my story is basically about is there's the whole world is at war. There's like these 8 different lineages of people. And 2 of them are fighting the most fiercely. And at the beginning of my story, they have just made peace and built a city together. And the women behind the scenes are like, yeah, this isn't going to work out. So they basically police the world themselves. And one of them is the leader's wife, and the other one is his cousin. And they're completely different, which I said in my video the other day. One of them is kind of like Tiger Mom, and she's like, I really love my family, and she's the quiet woman kind of strength. And the other one is like real in-your-face, brazen, crude, and loves whiskey and fighting, and she's really fun. But there's also like a whole bunch of side characters that are kind of beastly as well, and I just love those bitches, every single one of them.
They're brilliant. The way you've written them, honestly, I know that, you know, you have people, you have friends and that'll say, oh my God, I couldn't put it down. Oh my God, it's fucking awesome and all the rest of it. But it really is. And I know that you trust me when I say that. I can't put it down. I really can't. It's such a bloody good read. And I can't even remember what chapter I got up to last night, but it was 2:30 in the morning and I was sitting, my eyes were all bleary and I'm like, I need to go to sleep. And I thought, I need to put this down. And I couldn't do it because it got to that part in the bloody story that I was like to you. You introduced another 2 characters, and I really like them. Very like them.
Which one was that? Was that Larka and Alicia?
Yeah. And
Larka's the barrel of fun.
Gim or something? Gimme?
Gime?
Yeah. She came into it, yeah. So
She's
it's really awesome because when you first read it, you're like, I hate her, and I hate her, and I hate her. And then you're like, oh my God, she's awesome. Oh God, she's even more awesome. And it gets even better and better the further through you go. The male characters are not dominant in it, is the way you would think they should be, or some people should be in society. They would be like, the men should be the best, but they're not. The women are the best.
Well, what I was trying to do was, it's almost like the side plot. So if this had been a movie, it would have almost been like it would have followed the male line because that's like the plot driver. But instead, it's following like this like sinuous side plot that would have gone next to it.
Yeah.
And I just think it's way more fun.
Oh, it is. It's definitely more fun because the men are like, we're going to war, we're going to war, we're going to hammer him, we're going to batter him. The women are like, you know what? Let's just shimmy on over here and do this. Shimmy over there and do that. And it is awesome because it's so underhand and the men are completely oblivious to it. But it's epic. I keep saying the word epic, but it truly is epic because it's going to go on forever and ever. I think you're going to end up with more than a trilogy with this one. Honestly, it really could because it's so good and I don't want it to end.
One hell of a commitment. I don't know. I'm already like dying over here with the 500 pages I have to edit.
Take it away, Sam.
Yeah, so I really enjoy Jory and Frankie both are really, really loving the story. So I'm really I need your comments because I am floundering over here in edit land. It's killing me. I just finished editing chapter 26 of 50, but I've been doing it for...
That's the thing, it's good just now. So I'm really looking forward to seeing your edit because it is so good just now. It could only get better, put it that way. That's for sure.
Basically, all I'm really doing is tightening it up. And when we decided I was going to pull out that thread, and you were saying it was really hard it actually wasn't as hard as you thought it was to go back and edit through Ben. It actually wasn't as hard as I thought it was either to pull that thread right out of there. So yeah. I've lost a good 2,000 words there. Well,
I mean, if the main thing is that you're trying to cut down and there is something there that you don't need, get rid of it. The original character I was going to cut isn't the one that I actually cut. The one that I cut is my favourite character from the original version of this story. So at first I'm like, oh my god, this is going to be really, really hard and I don't want to lose him and all the rest of it. But superimposed him onto one of the new characters who I really, 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 really love, and it's worked out. So it's not actually as hard to edit as I thought because I just changed the name for one of them. I made the man into a woman like that.
It's a lot easier in fiction.
Yeah, definitely.
So why don't we talk about your story now?
My story, gosh, it was just one of those really weird ideas that came from a dream, which is where a lot of mine come from, actually. And it's an area of science fiction that folk, you know, they roll their eyes and go, God, it's been done a million times, but I'm not doing it that they think they've all got superpowers and all that, because it's to do with the mind. They've unlocked mind powers by a certain way that you'll read when you get it, but it's less to do with the mind powers that these guys have and more to do with how they deal with them, and that's the kind of take that I wanted to take on it. Is I have a nursing background and it's always interested me the way the brain works and things, and it's more based on that than the actual powers themselves. I mean, the powers that they've got are quite awesome, but that's not the main focus of the book, and I'm hoping that it comes out, you know, what I'm trying to convey when I'm writing it is how destructive the powers could be just to the person who has those powers, rather than, I'm awesome, I'm going to destroy a building with one single thought. It's nothing like that. It's, you know, oh, geez, I've got these powers and I can't sleep at night because I'm always listening to other people's minds and, you know, that kind of thing.
I picked up Frankie's story and I also couldn't put it down. So the funny thing is for my entire life, I can't read anything but fantasy. I've been like an ace student my entire life, and if I feel like I'm learning anything, I get pissed off and I put it down. So most of the time, if I pick up nonfiction or historical fiction or anything that seems like it could have been a real story, like I get bored and I put it down immediately. That's why I stick to fantasy. So I pick up Frankie's story, and just like what she said, I was thinking, oh man, this has been done so many times. Like, I'm like, Frankie, like I love this, but you really should pick a different story to go with because I feel like this has already been done, and I worry that you won't be able to market it. I'm reading this thing, and it's actually very different from what you would think that it is, because as she said, it's dealing with how the powers affect the person that has the powers, more so than it is about them being able to blast people with their minds and then just basically being dicks. Yeah. So her villain is like really cool. I have a thing for villains, and she's real fucked in the head, and I love reading her because she is exactly what Frankie said. She's completely evil, and she's just in it for the lols, and it's fun to follow. And, you know, it's all of her side characters, like, you can feel that there's some depth there, but she doesn't, like, waste her time on really delving into it if she doesn't need to. And, like, the whole thing reads exciting. There's not any extra words there to bog you down and make you feel like you're reading an epic, like, you know, with mine. And so I'm reading this on my break, and I'm, like, commenting and every now and then, and I'm like, Frankie, I can't put it down. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yes! That was a lot of fun, but we've recorded way too much video, so we're gonna go now. I think we should do one of these once a month.
Yeah, that sounds good, because it's been bloody good fun, I'll tell you. I didn't think I would ever go on a video with a glass of wine and have a wee drunken episode with my friend in America. How awesome's that?
What can I say? Fascinating. So, till next time. Love you.
Bye-bye, guys.